Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and welcome back to another episode of the happenings of the Roanoke Valley Chess Club. And actually, I kind of want to talk a little bit about openings because it's what I want to talk about today. So, I was speaking with Russell, the national master who frequents the club, Rusty. He's a great person, and he coaches many of us at the club, and he's a great teacher. I was kind of talking about him, and of course, he's making a change from he used to be an ardent queen pawn player, but he's making a switch to e4. And basically, all his time in studying opening theory is spent on the Sicilian, and apparently, he wants to play the open Sicilian. However, I think for somebody who's making such a massive switch, I think just playing c3 is a better option long term. Then again, playing c3, I would argue, isn't really in spirit of pawn to king 4, and that you're going for rapid development and more open positions. Now, the reason why I would think a queen pawn player may not want to go, dive straight into the open and may prefer an option such as c3, the Alapin, is because the positions are a little bit more akin to what they're going to be used to. I would even consider d4 here, and I believe, what's the theory move? Is it... I'm trying to remember... I am honestly trying to remember what the theory is. Is it e6? I would think it would be e6. Though d5 is certainly an option. And this would actually transpose. So I want to try. So d5 actually is certainly an option. I think most people would take, and then you get this endgame quite reliably. And it's a bit awkward, but I think that this pawn is more valuable to black and might give black a slight edge. Probably play bishop to e3. I'd play f5, just anchor this pawn down and prevent us from playing that, because this isn't as big of a weakness without... most people are going to play here. I play knight f6. Maybe castles or... Yeah, castles or maybe bishop to b5. Oops, not what I wanted to play. I don't know why I did that. I'd probably play e5 and overwrite. And okay, so you've got a position. Actually, black should be the one fighting for the win there. I think that ending is good for black, so that's why I would expect most people to play that. I don't know. I'm not a big specialist on the Alpin. I play knight f3 and I play the open, and of course there's a lot of theory here. The two main moves are d6 and knight c6, and of course in knight c6 you've got the accelerated dragon, which I'm going to separate it from the Sveshnikov and Pelican lines, because when you get this move order, you're effectively compelled to play this, and most people don't want to play a Marozzi bind against the accelerated dragon. So after g6, most people are going to play here. There are the e6 Sicilians as well, I should mention, and you've got the Khan and the Taimanov, and honestly I think most queen pawn players would be more amenable to playing the Marozzi bind against both of these move orders, simply because it clamps down on any counterplay. Personally, I prefer this variation, targeting this d6 weakness and effectively compelling black to play d6. Though other moves haven't played, this is perfectly acceptable. And then most people play d6 here, but at my level, I typically see stuff like a6, and, well, let's be honest here, you are going to want to take this, and then most people are going to play queen here, and I believe the correct move is bishop to f4. You cannot play... Actually, I think you can play e5. I'm trying to remember what the correct move is here. After this, king takes, and then bishop to here. Yeah, that was the variation. So you don't want to do that, and I think most people... Oh, actually, a lot of people do. Apparently, computer likes that. I'd castle just to really anchor this in, because that's going to affect development and ability for black to play in the center. But that's kind of the types of positions you expect in the Tamanov. But again, most people will play c4 because it's just a good move. But let's go knight c6, d4, takes, and then g6. I did an entire video on what I like to call the caveman attack, which is just h4 immediately, but most people are going to play the Morozzi bind. There are a lot of people who are going to play maybe bishop to e3 and wait to see what black does, or more accurately, wait. Again, I would play h4. A lot of people will play c4, but quite a few people will play this, and then, whoa, okay. And then this, and then they'll play knight c3, and then castles, and then we can go with a caveman attack, or we can play... actually, castles is a move, and I believe there was a famous game, I believe it went queen here, or did it? No. Yeah, queen here, bishop back, knight g4... No. Was it knight g4? Was it knight g4 here? I'm trying to remember the exact variation. We'll see it in a game at some point. Maybe it was knight g4 here. Takes... I don't remember this variation. I'm going to put the notation back up just so I can delete this variation. Delete the variation, there we go. But that doesn't work either, so there we go. And we'll go ahead and do that. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm trying to remember the variation. There's a game we'll get to in a book that I have that enters a very similar line. I just don't remember it for the life of me. Maybe it was here. It might have been there. I almost want to say it was here. As a matter of fact, I think this is exactly the position. I'm almost positive. Yeah, I think this... Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it. But that's a game that we'll have to get into later on. But you can get very similar positions, actually. I think most people would probably play here, and then after d6, queen d2, bishop here. We've got ourselves a relatively standard dragon. Though I think there would be a lot of people who, after castles, would just play f3, d6, queen d2, and, well, guess what? We have a very, very standard mainline Yugoslav attack. So those are just a few options. After knight f6, you don't have the option. And this is where a lot of people are going to play here. And you've got the very normal Sveshnikov. And the main lines are bishop here and knight here. Which, by the way, because of the fork, effectively forces here. And then there's two theoretical moves. I would consider this one slightly better because you're not interfering with this bishop and castling. After which I believe bishop e3 is probably the best move. And then you can play bishop there, or you can do this, but theory probably favors this. Though you can insert a6, and then typically most players would play here, but I prefer knight here. And after bishop here, I believe the theory is to play either c4 or a4. There's a move that I'm not quite willing to show just yet because it's fairly normal for me to get to this position. I don't want anybody viewing this to know exactly what I play in the Sveshnikov. But the other main move, and the move that I used to play, was here, bishop here. Or, sorry, no, it wasn't bishop there. I want to overwrite that. You retreat, and then you play bishop here, and you take, sorry. I mean, it is theory, but most people play b5, forcing here, bishop here, here, and then bishop takes, and g takes. Most people actually consider g takes the main line because at the end of the day, black wants to play f5 a lot, or black wants to play f5, and, well, if you take like this, you get to play f5 twice, which is the big idea. And the king castling here isn't as weak as it appears. So that is certainly a move. After d6, however, you've got the very open. You can, of course, play a delayed Alpin, but the main line goes here. Takes, knight here. There is a move order you can try to avoid the open Sicilians and force them bind with f3. However, you're not going to see that very often. You're going to most of the time see knight to c3. And there are a few Sicilians you can play. You can play a Rouser, which can turn into kind of a Fischer-Sozin with bishop c4, or a Richter Rouser with bishop g5. You'll see the Najdorf. You'll see the let's see if I can say this correctly, the Scheveningen. If anybody is watching from Holland, I'm sorry if I butchered that. You can play the Dragon, and against both the Scheveningen and the Najdorf, I actually, and Rusty actually agrees with me, that f4 is probably the most critical move. And there's a reason why. So this is the English attack. This is the very, very super crazy main line. H3 is a move. Apparently H4 is also a move. G3 is a move. F3 is a move. F4 is a move. A3 and A4 are both moves. Bishop C4, Bishop D3, and Bishop E2 are moves. You can. Queen F3 was a move for a very long time, if I remember correctly. And of course, in the Bishop G5 line, there's a famous game, and I may actually play, or not famous game, but 3 famous games in the very same line that would later spawn what is known as the poison pawn variation. I'll go ahead and put that up. F4, E6, Bishop G5, E6, F4. I believe it's Queen B6 and Queen to B2. This is the very famous poison pawn variation. And this line specifically led to three very famous games at an was it an interzonal or was it a zonal? I want to say it was an interzonal tournament. And you know what? The next great games of the past will cover this the line that wound up getting played and that has earned a very special moniker. That's going to be the very next great games of the past that we'll do. So, yeah, the Najdorf can get complicated, but both Rusty and I prefer f4. And there's a bunch of variations. I consider e5 to be the main line. E6 actually transposes into a Scheveningen. And probably the simplest and most correct way to play is to play bishop to e3. As seen on this channel, I really like the idea of g4 and just going for it. I believe bishop here or even bishop here is considered good. Queen f3 is considered good. But, you know, me being me. F4, E5, like I said, is considered a main line. And typically, sharper, more attacking players will play knight to b3 in this variation, if they're even playing f4 to begin with. And that's actually interesting. Rusty likes f4 for positional reasons. I like it for tactical reasons. And we actually both prefer knight to f3. I, again, prefer it for tactical reasons because black is almost certainly going to eventually castle on the king side, and I want my pieces over on the king side. Rusty prefers it for, well, positional reasons because the knight is probably better served over here. I'm trying to remember what the line is. I believe it's just... Is it really knight c6? Oh, apparently the theory move is knight b to d7. I would never consider that. But, okay, bishop to d3 is probably correct because the bishop is going to wind up being more effective on this square than it is going to be on c4 because, sure, on c4 it's currently hitting something, but it's not going to long-term. Bishop to e7. Most of the time you're going to castle. Most of the time they're going to castle. Queen to e1 is considered a move. I'm trying to remember what the theory is. a4 is definitely a move. Whoopsies. b6 I've seen played, but queen e7, yeah, that makes sense to me. I want to play queen e1 to g3, but apparently that's not considered the best. Yeah, king h1, that's fair because queen c5 may be a bit to handle. Yeah, knight c5, that's fair. Queen to e1, you may see people play that and just take it. That's not really a concern. Is there... I've literally... At this point, I would consider if I was black maybe playing... Well, you can't play d5. Maybe bishop here because knight to d5 may be slightly concerning. f5, bishop back. Wait, did it suggest... Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, okay, that's not unreasonable as an alternative. And yeah, that's reasonable, I suppose. That pawn's not really under threat. I'd probably play bishop to g5. Yeah, that makes sense. What move does it really? It wants me to play that, hitting the bishop. Doesn't even... Probably wants queen b6. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't want to hit that queen, but okay. Okay, so this is getting into computer weirdness, but the point is, white winds up with a good position if you want to follow it up with stuff on the king side. Because your pawn structure dictates that you should be playing towards this side of the board. And it's going to be very difficult for black to evict your piece with, say, h6 or g6. So you can consider even sacrificing there to try and open up this bishop. Your queen's going to be very useful on the g3 square, stuff like that. Also, you don't really want to break this, so even after bishop here, you may even consider wanting to play queen g3, or again, I don't want to break the tension. I'd probably play here and pay the price for it. So maybe I should consider something different. Maybe knight g5, hit that bishop. Bishop would... I wouldn't want to play that, but okay, sure. Bishop g4. All I would have to know is not to take the bishop, because I don't want to lose this bishop. F5 is probably reasonable here, but the point is that there's a lot of positional stuff going on in these lines, so as well as potential for tactics. In the Scheveningen, G4 is considered good. F4 is also... I typically play F4 because most people who play the Scheveningen are not going to play A6 immediately. They're going to just continue. So I have the luxury of just doing this. And this is a variation as well, though I think Queen F3 is the main line. Yeah, and there's a lot of bishop moves, and yeah, basically. But what I'm trying to say is that I like playing a Kara's style, but I like getting all of my pawns into the attack. And after the dragon, there's a lot of stuff you can play. There's the 11 fish, and believe it or not, there's this knight h5 idea, but there's also takes, you go back, e6, knight e5, believe it was takes, I want to say it was takes, and then you take, believe it or not, you don't really want to play king there, you want to take it. Of course, then again, there's also the idea that you want to play bishop here first, and then after knight c6, then you take, and then here, and then you castle, and then bishop, and then, if I remember correctly, it was takes, and then takes, and after all is said and done, material is equal, but black's pawn structure is garbage, and but black has the two bishops. That's just one line I remember from my study of the 11 fish, and that's why I actually play bishop g7 against 11 fish, even though theoretically it's not supposed to be good. Typically against 11 fish, the theory move is to play knight c6, and okay, now you can play bishop g7 castles, and you'll be fine. G6, the main line, though, is bishop here, bishop g7, f3, castles, queen d2, knight c6, and then there's the choice of bishop c4, preventing d5, and going into the very crazy main lines of the Yugoslav, with rook there and queen a5. There's also the Ukrainian, if I remember correctly, with queen to b7, or sorry, queen to b8. There's the Chinese with rook to b8, with the idea of opening up the b file instead. But anyway, there is, of course, instead of bishop c4, you can play castles and allow this crazy line. And if I remember correctly, what is the move? It's here. Do you take it? Yeah, it was queen's. Yeah, this was the line. Because you don't want to take there because of this move. It's basically a theoretical trap, and you're going to lose your queen. I believe this is a variation I've seen before. And, okay, Black does have a little bit of work to do to ensure that he wins, but Black is better. So typically Black doesn't take, instead there, and then you play queen here. I've seen that. Queen b7, but I would play queen b8. But yeah, that's one of the many, many, many crazy lines of the dragon. And this is the problem with the Sicilian, is there have been so many games, so much theory, that it's just not worth it. Now, a lot of people are wondering, why a6? Well, the problem is if you play e5, you can play bishop to b5, and it doesn't matter how you defend, you lose control of the f5 square. Most people are going to play here. You take, and then take, and then... Well, you can play knight to b5, or you can go back. Is there some other move that I'm not seeing here? For some stupid reason it wants me to do this, but maybe it's a support f4. Maybe we should do that. And there, and then I would assume castles. And I would assume castles and bishop here. Yeah, okay, so we've got a position. Apparently computer thinks everything is okay for Black, but, you know, maybe it was... Like I said, I still prefer here, but after this... problem is that you can't really do anything because, well... White actually has a good position here. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. So, anyway, point is, the Sicilian is a gigantic jungle. And there's more moves than this. Like I said, there's the Rouser. And I tend to play like this, waiting for them to play either e6 or, you know, whatever. And I've seen this as a move, trying to go into a dragon, which I wouldn't do. I want to go into a Scheveningen, and I would probably try to go into a Najdorf, at which point I'm just going to wait for them to play e6 before I do anything. If they want to play e5, that's fine, but a lot of people will play e6, and at that point I just say, okay, let's have fun. And this is considered a bad move because, weirdly enough, you take with the queen. It's extremely weird. Yeah, like I said, it is extremely weird. I believe the correct move, yeah, is there. It takes, and then takes, and then takes. Castles check. King there. Knight to d5. King. I think most people are going to play here, but that's bad for a lot of reasons. The one off the top of my head is bishop to b6. So apparently I guess you do have to play there, and then that's fine, and maybe I can even consider something crazy like rook here and just not even care about... Maybe I should just take that. fine. And, I mean, I prefer white here, but, you know, there's some craziness that can happen. There's a lot of fun that can happen in these open Sicilian positions. But the point is just to give a flavor, and by the way, a lot of us at the Roanoke Valley Chess Club do play open Sicilians, sometimes with both colors. I'm a notable player who plays the open Sicilian with both colors, so... Anyway, I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Take it easy. Have a nice day, and bye-bye.